I want to tell you, I appreciate Rotary having something besides chicken today. When I do write my book, it's going to be 3,000 ways to eat chicken, and I think it will be very interesting. I have pictures of just about every kind of chicken that you can have. I feel like the guy in Forrest Gump talking about shrimp. You have chicken this, chicken that, many different ways. And also to Gwen Crutcher back there. Gwen, thank you for coming and making sure the PowerPoint works today. One of the great things about Mayor is that you can get your own IT person when you need to, and Gwen has been so nice to me and made sure that all my PowerPoints work. And you also get good parking. That is another perk for Mayor. You can get good parking and you have an IT person who works with you. But today we wanted to talk a little bit about leading change, a game plan for the government. And it could be called a game plan for Huntsville just as much as it's a good game plan for government. But that's one of the things that as we move through what we do on a day-to-day basis, we have to look at where is change coming, where do we need to go, how do we need to plan to be in the future. Also, how do we stay competitive? Cities, states, even countries have to be competitive. And you have to realize that we're on a competitive platform. When we start talking about the city of Huntsville, we're competing against Austin, Texas. We're competing against Boston. We're competing against the Beltway in Washington. We're competing against the West Coast. But we're also competing against those countries overseas like India, China, Germany. We have to make sure that our community is competitive so that when it comes down to it, we can keep our standard of living. We can make sure that we maintain a good job base. So we have to be competitive. Competition comes down to several different ways. Cost of living, cost of doing business, workforce skills, quality of life, and it also comes down to perception. One of the things I wear all the time, I have this on my lapel, and you probably can't read it from out there, but it says Huntsville, a smart place. And that's one of the things, perception of your community. You want to make sure that you're perceived as something else than what people believe. Every time people come here and they look at our community, they walk away saying, I had no idea. When they go see the Space and Rocket Center, when they go out to Research Park, second largest research park in America, when they come and look at the downtown area and say, what a beautiful downtown area, they walk away saying, I had no idea. So in the competition, we've got to make sure that we keep up with the cost of living, and we've got to make sure that we find ourselves on the winning side of the competition. Winning competition means jobs. And jobs is one of the very basic things. I think I've told y'all I have a very simple philosophy. If you have a job, you're a fairly happy person. You can pay for your house, you can pay for your car, you can put food on the table, and if you're a happy person, happy people usually re-elect mayors. So I think that's a great thing to do. But also, just as much out of that competition as having a job, is being able to increase your standard of living, taking that job that you have today and seeing another job where you can move up, and you can move up in the world. That's what you want to do here. Several years ago, I had, I guess, the best example I can say about why we want to have jobs and why we want to bring people in here. My son graduated University of Alabama in finance and decides to go off and work for a bank. Went to work for Ron's bank back there, and I said, son, why don't you come home? There's lots of banks and banking jobs here. And he said, oh, no, Dad, I want to go live in the big city. So he went 2 or 3 different places, 4 different places, and did that for 3 or 4 years. And finally one day he called me. He said, Dad, y'all have grown a good bit in Huntsville, and you've grown with new banks in Huntsville. And one of those banks has called and asked me to come and work with them and said, I think I'm coming home. That brought home to me the reason that you want to make sure that you continue to grow. Your sons, your daughters, your nephews, the people that you know, the children of people that you know, they need an opportunity, and we've got to have an opportunity as a community for them to be part of this community, be a productive part of this community, and have opportunity. We also have to grow. Growth to me is not exponential growth. We've seen too many cities have done exponential growth. Right now you can see Austin, Texas, you can see Nashville, which are growing so fast that they can't keep up with their infrastructure. We want to have growth. We want to have measured growth. We want to have smart growth. We want to have planned growth. We want to be able to grow in such a way that we can keep growing on a day-to-day basis, but we can keep up with our infrastructure. One of the things that when I first became mayor, I went down to Montgomery and I was sitting down with Governor Riley. And Governor Riley said, you're in an enviable position. Huntsville is in an enviable position of being able to pick and choose its future industries. We're able to look at what the future is going to be, and we can pick and choose who we want to have come into our community. One such case is we had an industry that came in here and wanted to be part of our community and came to us, and it was a rolled steel mill plant. Wanted to be out in Limestone County, and they would bring in excess steel from all over the country, ship it in, smelt it down, make it into rolled steel, and send it back out. And we looked at it, and we started talking about it. And it wasn't exactly an industry that fit with what we did here in Huntsville, and it didn't fit with what our future was going to be. And so we talked to them for a little bit and decided that the place that they wanted to be, with the big smokestack and everything else, wasn't exactly what fit for our community. And so we as a choice, we made that enviable choice of saying, we'll pass on this one and we'll come to the next one. Quite frankly, it turned out to be one of the places where Polaris ended up going, so it's probably a good decision on our part. When we start looking at what we do as a city, we target our growth. We target where we're going to grow. Biotech area, Hudson Alpha. Welcome to our guests from Hudson Alpha today. But Hudson Alpha, we have the first genomic medical clinic that you can find in the world. And that is something that we can be very proud of. But that's also a growth industry for us, the biotech industry, the energy industry, geospatial, the cybersecurity. 8 years ago, we didn't even have cybersecurity. Today, we just held the National Cyber Summit last week that was here in Huntsville. 1,500 people attended, undersecretaries of NSA and of NSA were here. So we have some places that we can grow. Advanced manufacturing, Polaris, Remington, GE Aviation, part of our advanced manufacturing, aerospace and defense, information technology. All these are areas where we want to be able to continue to grow. And to continue to grow, there have to be some factors there. Factors of success is what I call them. You have to have certain things in place so that you can continue to grow, and certain things that you have to have. Education is one. Education has to provide students coming out of these schools that are career ready and college ready. Number one on your list when you start talking to the guys at Polaris or Remington or any of the places that want to come in, GE Aviation, is, do you have a good school system? Can you provide me a workforce that is career ready? Can you provide a school system that when my execs come down, they want to put their children in your school system? And we can say yes. Education is the key. Infrastructure. You've got to have infrastructure. We just talked about roads. $250 million worth of roads being built over the next 5 years. Really, $453 million worth of roads are going to be built over the next 5 years when we take when we go beyond the state plan for local roads. You've got to continue to build your infrastructure. If we continue to build our infrastructure and we grow at a measured, steady pace, then we can keep up and we can keep the same quality of life. And that's the next one. You can keep that same quality of life. One of the arguments we always make is we have an 18-minute commute to work, 18-minute commute back, 36 minutes round way. When you're competing against somebody in Washington, D.C. who goes an hour to work, an hour back, you're competing against somebody who's 2 hours a day on the road. What can you do with an extra hour, 34 minutes a day of your life? What can you do? That's part of your quality of life. Part of your quality of life, there's so many different things you can look at. It's botanical gardens. There you go, Paul, I got you. It's low mill and having 200 working artists in an artist colony. It's greenways, it's parks, it's a museum of art. All those things are part of your quality of life, and it's something that makes people want to be part of your community. And another factor for success is we got to have good leadership. We have to have good leadership not only on the elected side, you have to have it on the volunteer side. You have to have it throughout your community, because you look across the board, that's one of the things that we're so fortunate with, that we do have some great leadership across the board. Whether you're at Huntsville Hospital, whether you're looking at Huntsville Utilities, whether you look at Allison, where's Allison? I saw her there. If you look at Allison, one of the sharper tools in her shed, who takes care of the Arts Council and makes sure it rains every May, or whether you're a leader like Clay Vanderfur in United Way. Across the board, we have a great leadership team. We have people who work very well with you, and that leadership team makes sure that you're a success. Another factor of success is we got to attract millennials. These millennials, they're smart, they're tech savvy, they're job multipliers. They're the kids who figure out the new widget and how to make that new widget, and then they put it into production. You have to have people who make it, and you hire people who make it, and then they make it into a whole industry. The young millennial phase, and whoever gets the young millennial phase and brings in the smartest and the brightest, they're going to be the winners in this competition that we keep talking about as a community. Another thing that we look at on a day-to-day basis in the city of Huntsville is you got to recognize while you were asleep last night, the world changed. Saturday morning you woke up and all of a sudden we had a new Speaker of the House. Sunday morning you woke up, there was a tragedy down in Orlando. And let me tell you, our hearts and prayers go out to every person in Orlando and every family in Orlando, because we've been through a small, minor bit of that kind of tragedy. And that kind of tragedy has an imprint on a community and takes years and years to get over with. But Sunday morning we woke up, our world had changed. And all of a sudden we changed with it, and we started doing some things that we hadn't done before. We put police presence at different places that we hadn't done before. We did other things that made sure that our community was a safe place. But all of a sudden our world changed. As your world changed last night, we have three options. We can hide our head in the sand, 4 options really, hide our head in the sand, which we choose not to do. We can stay ahead of change, we can adjust to change, or we can take advantage of that change. And we as a community have tried time and time again to take advantage of that change. Staying ahead of change. Who would have thought 50 years ago that we would need a research park? Remember when research park was, many of y'all were here when research park was first brought up. The people who were investors in the Hick building thought we were going to just kill the economy of Huntsville, and the Hick building was going to go empty, and that we were going to have, that Huntsville would never be anything. And today it's the second largest research park in America 50 years later. 50 years ago, UAH came on board and we brought A&M in, and we started using both of those facilities to produce engineers, because we knew that engineers were going to provide the future for Huntsville in aerospace and IT and any of the areas. And we did it 50 years ago. We started looking ahead. We stayed ahead of change. We saw that there was going to be a change. There was going to be technology coming out. There was a technological change in the whole world, and we decided to be part of it. And then we started today. Less than 6 months ago, we announced fiber to the home. Nobody realizes what that's going to do. What that does for people who want to work from the home and work at Hudson Alpha and want to carry big data and be able to push big data through some bigger portals faster than it's ever been done before. Wow, the world changed on us. Redstone Gateway, a new way to look at Research Park and have more office space on the ground as we go through. Research Park, as we come through Cummings Research Park and we change Cummings Research Park, and we start looking at something that was put together 50 years ago, but all of a sudden it's changed and it's time to move forward and do something different with it. Madison Square Mall. Gosh, remember when they put Madison Square Mall out there and we all said, what are they doing putting it way out there? And now Madison Square Mall has been through its useful life. It's been a great mall, but now it's got to be redeveloped, because we can't leave it as a place where we have 1,400 calls for police service every year. We can't leave it as a place with 3 open stores there that don't offer anything. That property takes and anchors the north end of Research Park East. Our area that we have to work on the most is Research Park East. It also anchors the eastern end of our 72 West corridor. And we can't let the blight that started at Madison Square Mall creep out and affect that corridor, which affects our retail sales, or affect that area to the south of it, which affects Madison Square Mall. We've got to stay ahead of change, and we've got to change. Change is a given in the world. Adjusting change. Look at this. Rotary phones, 8-track tapes, and punch card computers. How many remember all those? I do. And you start looking, what does that one phone do that's sitting there, the iPhone? It does the same thing that rotary phones did, but it does it much better. It does the same thing the 8-track tapes did, but does it much better. And it does the same thing that punch cards and computers did, but it does it much better. Things have changed. We have to change with it. Used to be in this community, we would want to go to a movie, and you go to a movie house. Somebody paid $300,000 to put together a great movie house, and they'd have 30 people working there. 10 years later, you didn't go to the movie house anymore. You went to Movie Gallery or Blockbuster and picked up a CD and took it home and played it. Today, you go on Netflix. Things are changing in the world, and we've got to change with them. That's the thing that we recognize as government. That's the thing we recognize as Huntsville. That's the things we recognize as keeping us moving ahead. Taking advantage of change is the key to what we need to do. And that's taking advantage of change is what we have done. Hudson Alpha in the biotech area, in the genomics area. What a change that has been. Who was thinking of mapping the human genome 20 years ago? And who was thinking that we could do it quickly? We could do it for $6,500. And then who was thinking about how we could take that human genome that we have mapped and tell what it did to your basic health plan, and how you could tie that back to medicine, and how medicine could tie it to a better life. That's a change that we've taken advantage of, and right now we're seeing some great benefits out of it. In the cyber fields, 8 years ago, there wasn't a cyber field. 10 years ago, who knew that we were going to worry about how computers talk to computers and who was going to be listening in, how you talked on those computers, and who was going to be hacking in on you? Nobody thought of it. But all of a sudden today, it is one of the biggest industries that is emerging throughout the world, and it's emerging right here in Huntsville. Communications, another area. Remember, we used to have the rotary phone that we just talked about, the punch button phone. We had the bag phone and Palm Pilots, and now we've moved forward. But each of those is changes, and those changes are what makes us as a community be able to go ahead of other people, win that competition that we're in, and be the winners in that competition that is worldwide, on a worldwide platform. Also, leadership. One of the things that we look at on a day-to-day basis is we've got to have leadership, and I think I talked about it a little bit. Leadership means that we've got to have public servants. We've got to have people who are willing to step forward to do jobs that are more hours and less pay. And people who want to do things that make us a special place. People who come in with no agenda, but they want to do the right things. People who have a moral code, who know how to work hard, they have a vision, and they know how to work as a team. You know, the last couple of hires that we've done at the city, I told everybody, I said, I don't want to hire a star running back. I don't want to hire the guy who wants to make the touchdown. I want to hire people who make a difference. I want to hire people who want to work as a team, want to work for a community and make this community a better place. Leadership is going to be key to our future. As we work through these changes, and as we work through this competition, and as we work to be a better place, leadership is the key. And I mentioned some of the leaders that we already have in this community who are in paid leadership positions. But one of the things that we've got to make sure that we have is leadership on the volunteer side. Every one of y'all plays a part of that. Every one of y'all has some organization that you work with, some organization that makes a difference in this community and does it on a day-to-day basis. You're part of our leadership. You're part of our servant leaders. You're part of the people who take out time of your day and take time away from home to make this a better place. That's key. When Leadership Huntsville just had its new class come on, when Leadership Huntsville comes in, and I remember going through that many, many years ago, when we went through it, we talked about leadership and how to make your community a better place. We all had projects, and as we had projects, we said, how are we going to do all these projects, and how are we going to do this? But one thing it did for us, it made each of us step out, be a better person, step out in the community, and be a better citizen. Leadership's going to be key to what we do over the next 10, 15, 20 years. Leadership has to have some vision, and they have to be people who can look out over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They have to be like Von Braun was 50 years ago and look and say, you need a research park. You don't know where it's going to end up in 50 years, but he probably never had an imagination that in 50 years it would be the second largest research park in America. We have to have vision. We have to have leadership. We have to, as a community, keep moving forward. If we do that, we win the competition. We have a better standard of living. We have a community that we can each be proud of the successes of this community, and we can also be proud that we're part of this community because we are a producing part of this community. So last night, the world changed. Take advantage of it. As a city government, we work to take advantage of that every day. We take advantage of new industries. We take advantage of new technologies. Who would have thought that all of a sudden you don't have to have a car downtown because you can call Uber, and Uber will come pick you up, or you can get a zip car and you can drive out. And if you don't have to have a car in the downtown area, all of a sudden I don't have to build you a parking garage, and I don't have to pay $15,000 to build that parking space. Who would have thought that technology would be out there? But it's changed. We're taking advantage of it. We're making for a better community. We're moving our community forward. To each of you, thank you for being part of a successful community. Thank you for allowing me to be mayor of this community, because that's one of the most exciting things that you can do. But also, thank you for your leadership. That leadership is what makes us move forward. Whether it's a leadership in a barbecue contest, or whether it's a leadership as being on the Board of Trustees at Auburn University, or whether it's a leadership of just making sure that the right things happen in this community. We've got a successful formula here. And that successful formula is going to drive us into the future and make us successful. So that's our game plan. That's the game plan for the city, and that's where we're going to go in the future. And we want to say thank you for being part of it. Thank you very much.